ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's rare that we have an R&B Hall of Famer with us. It's rare we have someone who has a collection of songs that you know are being played in clubs, weddings, bars, parties, radio stations all around the world all of the time. But do you know Freda Payne can sing literally any style of music, from classic to jazz to disco to pop to it all. And the legendary Freda Payne is here. Freda Payne, welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
I'm so excited to have you here. Firstly, Freda, you're from Detroit, which is the home of singers. You better sing if you're from Detroit.
Yeah, well, I have to say there are quite a few people that were born and reared in Detroit, literally, and who now have become iconic names in the music industry. Yeah,
it's a music city, and it's a beautiful city. So you were raised there, and somehow, through some way, which I can't wait for you to tell us, you became quite influenced by jazz. I went to the Detroit Institute of Music.
Well, my mother started me taking piano lessons, so I was like about 6 or 7 years old when all that happened. And then when I turned about 12, that's when my piano teacher discovered that I had a talent of, singing more than just normal, but just, a special talent. And that's when I started to pursue that. And I became my first love was really jazz, to be honest with you, because I was learning, I was buying books at the music store. I was buying books on Cole Porter songs. I was getting Rodgers and Hart, Lawrence, Richard Rodgers and Lawrence Hart, and some Gershwin tunes. And I started learning all these different standards. And then I would listen to the radio, and I would listen to these singers like Ella Fitzgerald and oh my God, Sarah Vaughan, Karen McRae, Judy Garland. I love. What?
Sorry, during the day I teach 5th grade, so we literally just dismissed the class.
Okay. Yeah, I love Judy Garland. There was another singer that I really loved a lot. Chris Connor. I'll Take Romance. Oh my God. Anyway, that's about it.
Yeah, and you then start working after going to school. I always say this. I have very good friends of mine who are session singers. I have very good friends of mine who are jingle singers. When you started doing jingles, we've had Melissa Manchester on the show. We've talked to Valerie Simpson on some of you. These jingle singers at Patty Austin, there are legendary jingle singers. That is not an easy gig because you show up with a copy. You have to sing in harmony. They're little snippets. Was that a way that you learned how to work in a recording studio?
And you forgot to mention, you show up, you look at the music, the lyrics, you have to be able to read music. You have to be able to read music, have a good ear, and you can read music. So, or to a reasonable extent. Some people are better than others at that. I know when I came out of high school, I graduated when I was 16. I was really an excellent reader. I could read music really good. But I mean, I'm very right now, once you're not doing something, when you're in school, you're doing it. It's like it being drilled into you, And so when you come out, everything is fresh. Everything is new. Everything is like, I got this, and that's what happens there. So I was able to sing. I did some commercials. I did some jingles. I had to join AFTRA, and I joined AFTRA when I was 16 years old. I'm still a member of AFTRA, of course, and SAG.
Yes. At 16, you get your SAG-AFTRA card.
Yeah, I had to because I was doing these jingles were on the radio, like Chevrolet, and there was a beer commercial called Buckeye Beer, which was a beer that was made in Ohio, the state of Ohio. And so that was about it. And then I was doing other stuff too. I was singing on the radio. I was singing it was an amateur choir, but you had to be a good sight reader in order to even be accepted into the choir itself. It was on station WJR, and it was located in the Fisher Building in Detroit, in the penthouse, the top floor, and we broadcast it every Saturday. I think at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was a full band. There was a full band, and it consisted, I think, maybe about 16 people altogether. I believe 16 or 15. I'm not quite sure, but you got let's say soprano, first soprano, second soprano. You got first alto, second alto. You got the baritone singers, maybe one or two baritone. Uh, Maybe it was only like about 10 or 12 of us. But I was one of the singers that the name of the show was Don Large's Make Way for Youth. So I was a part of that show of Make Way for Youth, and I was given solos quite frequently. There was another girl that he gave solos to, and her name is Ursula Walker. And Ursula was like, to me, at that, going back, I mean, this is in the 50s. When I go back, Ursula was like a really good singer, and I wanted to say, I want to sing as good as Ursula. But Don Large gave me the breaks, and he also gave Ursula Walker the breaks. And he even formed a group. He wanted us to form a little girl group, and it was called the group was called the Three Debs, and it was me, Ursula Walker, and Carmen Mathis. And so I was like Ursula and I are both kind of like were lead singers. Mm-hmm. Carmen was the alto in the group.
It's amazing. What a time. And you eventually make the decision that it's time to move to New York.
Yes, I did.
And
after I didn't work out with Berry Gordy Jr. at the time because there was no Motown. And Berry Gordy wanted to manage me, and he wrote songs for me. We recorded those songs at a studio called United Sound, and that's the same studio where I used to do my commercials as a teenager. And then ironically, Hitsville, as we know it today, is located on the same street as United Sound. Matter of fact, it's just a few houses away. It's funny, but there's no more United Sound. Back then, United Sound was the go-to recording studio in Detroit. It was the go-to recording studio. I recorded some demos there. As I repeat again, I did some commercials there as well.
Wow.
So that's it. And then I went to New York when I was 18. I just said, I got to get out of Detroit. I got to go, and I got to seek my fame and fortune someplace else. So I did.
And you end up working with some amazing, Quincy Jones and Pearl Bailey and make jazz albums.
Yes. Yes, I worked with Pearl. That was my first professional job on the road with Pearl Bailey, and I was 17. I just turned 17, and sweet 17. And then after that, I got to audition for Duke Ellington, and he was in town with his big band, and which consisted of all those famous musicians that people know about, that know the history of the Duke Ellington band, all the original guys. Anyway, I got to sing for Duke. He wanted to sign me up for 10 years to be his band singer. And I got to sing with the band a couple of times as a guest artist, but I never signed I never signed the contract because he didn't want to change anything in the contract. So we said, okay, bye. And then I went on to move to New York. And then I eventually wound up meeting Quincy Jones. And then he hired me to perform with him at the Apollo Theater. And that was with his big band. And Billy Eckstine was the star. He was the big name, that was being accompanied by the Quincy Jones band. Red Fox, the comedian. I don't know if you remember Red
Sure
Fox.
do.
Red Fox was the comedian on the show. I was the girl singer on the show. And Honey Coles and Charlie Atkins, they were a dance duo at the time. And Charlie Atkins, years later, became the chief choreographer for the Temptations and the Four Tops at Motown later on. But like before that, he was a huffer, honey. It was like the Nicholas brothers, and then Honey Coles was his partner. They were both huffers, and Honey Coles he was quite something himself. And Honey Coles went on to do other shows and other Broadway shows where he was featured.
To be a fly on the wall, I needed to know you then and hang out with you, because you found every single genius, brilliant creator of art. But not only did you find them, they saw the brilliance and genius of your voice and hired you. I mean, you're talking about the echelons of artists, from Quincy to the band leaders to like they're finding you and wanting to hire you. You're no slouch to Broadway either, and theater either. You have had your own Broadway run. I know Hallelujah Baby. And then can you tell us a little bit what it was like to work with Sammy Davis Jr.?
Oh, Sammy was a hoot. It was great fun working with Sammy.
The playbill of Sammy that ran on Broadway.
Yeah, at the Uris. I was in that show.
Yes.
Yeah.
You sure were.
At the Uris. And it was the Nicholas brothers were on the bill. And I think was just the two of us. And then Sammy, of course, he was the main attraction. We were the opening acts. It was wonderful. And that wasn't the only time I worked with Sammy. I worked with him at a theater in the Round in Phoenix, Arizona. I worked with him in San Diego. I worked with him in Houston, Texas, at one of those arenas. Oh my God, I worked with Sammy. I did his special. He had a TV special that was back in 1976, and it was done on location in Acapulco, Mexico, because Betty White was one of the guests. I'll never forget that. And how many other times I worked with Sammy? Yeah, Sammy was like, I worked with him in Lake Tahoe at Harrah's, and that was like a 2-week run. It was like a 2 to 3 week run. It was a real good one. Yeah.
What a career, Freda. Miss Payne, what a career. And it's amazing. And listen, before we're going to keep going, but if you want to know more while we're here, the book Band of Gold is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. If you want to hear it in depth, you can grab a copy.
Hey, you did your homework, Robert.
I try, Miss Payne. I tried to do my homework.
You did your homework, baby. I was going to show the book myself. I was going to show, again, I pulled out a copy. I was going to show it myself, but you already did your homework.
No, and you can go to fredapayne.com, or you can go to wherever books. There it is. There it is.
That's called the front, and this is the back.
It's a gorgeous picture. Gorgeous picture. Gorgeous. Yeah.
And also my last jazz CD, which I did the duets with Johnny Mathis.
There you go.
Dee Bridgewater, and you got that too.
They can't take that away from me. If you want to hear two of the greatest voices of all time, I mean, you can't get better than Freda Payne and Johnny Mathis singing one of the classics of classics.
Oh, and Kenny Lattimore.
Oh,
Kenny Lattimore. I just love him too. I just love him. I love them all. Dee Bridgewater and Kurt Elling. As a matter of fact, I hear that Dee and Kurt Elling are on tour together right now.
If you don't know about Dee is another Broadway baby. The Wiz can sing her teeth out from here, there, and back.
She's one of our great jazz singers now. Like a lot of the old ones, like Ella, Sarah, Carmen, they're all gone. But now I think Dee has taken that place.
Brilliant. So that album and that duet with Johnny and everything, stream it wherever you listen to your music, get a copy of it, and make sure you also get a copy of the book. And if you want more information before we get into the rest of the story, go to fredapayne.com, or you can follow Freda on I Am Freda Payne on Instagram.
Right.
We try to do our homework here. I try.
I
know. And jazz, Michael Feinstein. Michael Feinstein was here, and Michael Feinstein had said that one of the greatest living jazz voices in the world right now is Freda Payne.
My God, he said that.
You did a run that got rave reviews over at Feinstein's Ifatello's.
Right, yeah.
And your tribute to Ella Fitzgerald that played from Bucks County Playhouse across the country, over to Los Angeles and all over the place, gets rave reviews because of that jazz training and that quality that I don't think people know how hard A, it is to sing jazz, and B, how damn good you are at it.
You know what is so funny? You say how hard. It's not, to me, it's not hard. It's come second nature to me. But it's like, anybody that, let's say if a country western singer probably couldn't execute really good jazz, and oh my God, what's his name? He's not with us any longer, but he was African-American, and he was one of the most famous country western.
Charlie Pride.
Mm-hmm. Honey, I'm getting old. That's why my memory's not so great. Okay, let me tell you a story. This was when I was working with Sammy, Lake Tahoe at Harrah's. Charlie Pride came to see the show. And afterwards, I saw him backstage because he came to say hello to everybody. And then he said, I'm going to the lounge to have a drink. You want to join me? I said, sure, why not? So we went, and he's a nice man. I met him before, by the way. And he said, you sure can sing that. I'll say it like he did. He said, Freda, you sure can sing that jazz good. And I said, oh, thank you, Charlie. I said, you could sing jazz too. You got a nice. He says, honey, I couldn't sing jazz if they tied me to a post and whipped me to death. That's what he said.
It's style for sure. What I found,
then the scatting. That's a whole nother thing. But I kind of like relate to the scatting with what's that what country and western people do? Ukulele. Yodel.
Yeah.
Yodeling is kind of close.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then scatting is so that's like a whole nother, it's another style.
I do that. I mean, I was just doing that right before this interview as well, Freda, but I was doing mine up a whole step than yours. No, I'm kidding. How? It's effortless.
Wow. Well, one of the great scatters right now is Kurt Elling, I think. Kurt Elling is a great scatter, and also Didi Bridgewater as well. And I worked with them both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you've talked about this for, 50 years. 1969, one of the most legendary songwriters of all time. Holland Dozier and Holland come to you. You have all this jazz music. You have this amazing repertoire and they give you a pop disco dance number that goes on to sell millions and millions of albums. Is a giant number one smash.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, God. Amen. For
yes.
But and if you don't know,
thank you, God.
We're talking about their original album, A Band of Gold. What did you think when you heard it, and what did you think about the transition from this more I don't want to say sophisticated. This style you were coming from to now come to this world?
Well, I'll tell you, I felt like I had made a decision that I wanted to be more visible, more famous. Because I wasn't really famous. I was out there, but I'm talking about this. We're going back to the early 60s in New York. And I said, you know what? Dinah Ross has got all these hit records and all this fame. Dionne Warwick has done the same thing, and we all came along at the same time, literally. I said, I'm never going to get anywhere unless I get a hit record. In order to get a hit record, I got to probably do something commercial. I've got to be much more commercial. So when the opportunity presented itself, I took advantage of it. And that's when I was living in New York, uh, Brian Holland of Holland Ocean Holland happened to be in town visiting. And I saw him. We got together. We spoke on the phone. And he said, you know, we just left Motown and we formed our own label, and we're calling it Invictus. And what are you doing now? I said, well, right. I said, I just got released from my record label, ABC Paramount. I said, and he said, do you have a manager? I said, I really had just gotten out of a contract with my old manager. I'd been with him for almost 5 years. And he said, well, maybe you might want to go with us because we're getting started. And he got his brother Eddie on the phone, who was like the president, like sort of like the boss. And Eddie said, why don't you come on? We want to fly you into Detroit. And and I think I would like to sign you if you're interested. I said, I'm interested. So the rest was history. That's how it all happened.
Firstly, your performance of the song your vocal performance is amazing. It's iconic. It will live forever. Secondly, shout out to them, because when you, as an actor, I'm an actor besides teacher, you take the words to the song. You know, if you break the song from the beat and the groove and the fun, you know, all that's left is a band of gold of the dreams I hold. Freda, how could you do this? How could they do you like that? So it's so relatable to so many people.
Well, you know what? Another thing I'd like to add to the conversation about the question you asked me, how did I do it? I also knew that I couldn't be singing like a jazz singer on Holland Ocean Holland tunes if I'm going to really, really get a hit. So I said, I will follow all the directions. If they tell me to breathe here, or to hold a monotone note, or to do whatever I need to shout or whatever, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to employ my style or push my style over on them. I'm going to let them direct me. And that was the key. So I sang, you know, I said, I'm going to sing like with the pop style, you know, and if he says, hold, whatever he said, I did it, you know, in the studio.
Yes.
In the control booth. I did it. And that was it. That was it.
You go on to sell millions of albums more. You go on to have some of the things that I saw that I found so fascinating about your career is songs for activism through the Vietnam War, songs through, you know, you really stood at a forefront where you always seem to have something to have said, if it's through art or through your life. But at the end of the day, it seems to always be about the music. It's about.
Yes. And then Bring the Boys Home, you're referring to. Bring the Boys Home in 1971. That was perceived as an anti-war song. However, when I recorded it and I first listened to the demo of it, and then I read the lyrics, and I said, you know what? This could be perceived as an anti-war song, but I did not see it. I didn't hear that. I heard it's a song of compassion for the soldiers that are there, that need to have a blessing to come home, for them to come home safely, you know. And even in reference, can't you see them marching across the sky, all the soldiers who have died, even the souls of men to be brought back home, trying to get home.
It's a gorgeous song, and the message is still relevant today as it was then. These songs have sent you around the world numerous amounts of times. We don't even have the time to talk about albums, movies, television, talk show, ahead of its time talk show, because all of the people that are doing the talk shows now, you were doing back way ahead of its time. And
yeah, I actually did it just before Oprah came on the scene.
that's what
It was in 81 and 82? Yeah, at 1981 and 82. I had a talk show. It was called Today's Black Woman. It was a very simple format. It was done in New York. And it was done but there was no audience like we have now. You have the audience. And there was no audience, but I would have different guests, and it was a nice set, with the couch and the coffee table there, and I would have guests from different walks of life and the industry. Political, I interviewed Shirley Chisholm, who had become a presidential candidate. Not only was she a Black woman, but a woman, period, and that was her. She was a Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. And Vernon Jordan, he was another politician that I interviewed. Jesse Jackson, oh my God, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Natalie Cole, Maya Angelou. I interviewed her because she had a book out. She's written many books, but it was interesting to interview her. Yes.
well,
And so it went on. And then we had different subject matters, just local things. Or once we did a show based on rape. And there were some ladies there who wrote a book about it. And it said it's not an act of compassion and lust. It's an act of anger and frustration. It's not love and lust at all.
Well, see, this one, all these shows, The View and the Wendy's and the Oprahs and the Ellens and the talks and the this and that, they were all, they all came after you did your format that was so ahead of its time, for sure. I can talk to you for hours because your career is immense. It's so faceted. But I want to make sure people know, again, that the album, the latest album with this beautiful single by Johnny Mathis, is available for you to check out. So make sure you check that out.
Also, I want to add my latest single is something that you can get. It's called "Do You Still Dream About Me?" Do you still dream about me? You can get that on Spotify or Pandora. Yeah.
Well, we're all gonna go.
You have to download that.
Good. Make them. Yes, download it. Go to FredaPayne.com where the information's there, or go to her Instagram page. And Freda's you're on the road. You can see her throughout this year. I'm sure there will be dates and gigs, and come see her. And while you're waiting, get the book so you're ready and prepared for all that's to come.
Right. Go to my website. And speaking of, I'll be performing here in LA, April the 22nd at the Catalina Bar and Grill.
The information's right there. Catalina is a gorgeous spot to see a show. It is a beautiful venue. Have some food, have a drink, listen to her sing with her beautiful voice, and go to FredaPayne.com. It will link you, I saw it today, right to get tickets to see the show.
Right.
Freda, you're I want to see your show. I want to buy a copy of the book, and then I would like you to sign it, and then I would love to take you out for a drink.
Oh, well, really? You're here in LA?
I'm in New York, but I come out to LA all the time, so don't worry, it's happening.
Okay, well, listen, you know how to get in touch with me.
I'm going to find you. That's the deal, and it's a date.
Okay, all right.
It's an honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.